All right, so for those of you who are complete fantasy nerds and you really want that information that's going to help you find your RB3 and your RB4 in your upcoming fantasy draft, this is going to be a nerd out on an extreme level from a football standpoint. When you're looking into your RB3s, your RB4s, your RB5 options even this much, I've got nothing but respect for you. You're my kind of people. We can chat about this shit anytime that you want to. But for those of you who did watch part A of the fantasy running back projection show, this is part B. This is where we're going to look into everybody according to my rankings that fall between the 21st and 40th ranked positions. I'm also going to highlight 3 rookies at the end that are just rookies that you really need to keep your eye on this season because they could have an extended role. And no, Jonathan Brooks is not in that. Jonathan Brooks is in my top 40. He is probably going to end up the starter in Carolina. All right, let's take a look at my running backs that I've got ranked 21st to 30th. Within this range, we're going to be rounding out the guys that are going to be in consideration for your RB2 slot and starting to get into guys that are worth an RB3 slot. So we've got a little bit of everything here. A lot of these guys, there's a little bit of a dramatic fall off about halfway through. But these top 4 guys in this range are definitely worth a 5th to 7th round selection. So first off is DeAndre Swift. He's the guy in Chicago. Rashawn Johnson and Khalil Herbert had their opportunity to take that spot over and they blew it. There's going to be a massive increase in Chicago's ability to throw the ball or willingness to throw the ball. But DeAndre Swift is a utility back that gets involved in the passing game as well. So I think that bodes well for him either way. Regardless, he has kind of been a journeyman and kind of played second fiddle everywhere he went. I'm excited to finally see him in a number 1 role. I think you take him exactly where he's projected to go, late 5th to early 7th round, anywhere within that window. I think that he's your guy. The next one's Zamir White. Zamir White's got to be one of my most exciting candidates to be my RB3 this year. I think that he's a steal. I'm willing to take him around early. He's projected to go between the 6th and 7th round. And a lot of people that really haven't looked too deeply at this don't realize just how much Las Vegas used Zamir White at the end of last season. So just going to pull up his last 4 games last season when he finally took over as the premier back. Looking at his last 4 games, he averaged about 22 carries per game, just about 100 rushing yards per game. On top of that, he averaged roughly 3.5, 4 targets per game, and about 25 yards or so. He only had 1 touchdown, but it doesn't matter. For me, what I'm looking for is how many opportunities do they get with the football and what are they doing with it. He averaged about 5 yards per carry and about 8 yards per reception. So if he was able to maintain that pace over the course of an entire season, that would put him at 24 touch opportunities per game. The leader in that category last year was Kyron Williams at 23 touches per game. So if Zamir White's able to maintain that same level of involvement within this offense, look out. Zamir White could have a hell of a season. I look for this to be a huge breakout, and this is a great sleeper pick for a lot of guys in your league who might not be paying attention. Next on this list is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a question mark to me only because he's in a new city. Minnesota just lost their rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. It just got announced that he's out for the season. So it looks like they're going to be rolling with a experienced vet in Sam Darnold who really hasn't ever quite lived up to his hype out of college. I think that Minnesota is going to need a lot of help in this offense finding production. Aaron Jones might be that guy. He's projected to go between the 5th and 6th round. I had him ranked, or I had him projected to go between the 6th and 7th. But I think maybe with the news about the rookie quarterback, I could see his value and his stock rising based on that alone. They're going to be really, really looking for help moving the football. And with the addition of Aaron Jones, who does have a history of being injury prone, I think that he could see an increased role here in Minnesota because of that. So 5th to 7th, anywhere in there would be good for him. Next on the list, my 24th ranked running back, the consensus ranked 20th running back, is Ramondre Stevenson in New England. I've got his situation arrow pointing up, and the reason for that is they get rid of Zeke, who was really that was just an experiment gone wrong. Also, Bill Belichick's last season was just a bad experience gone wrong. This entire offensive roster is a mess. I think that you're going to see an uptick in his production, his number of touches and everything, only because he just doesn't have the pieces around him. So I like Ramondre Stevenson to be drafted a little bit later than where he's projected. I've got him going around 6 and 7. The ADP range, based on the consensus, is late 5th to late 6th. So I've got him slightly behind that. My next running back is Javonte Williams. I do have his situation arrow pointing up. The reason being they got rid of Jaleel McLaughlin, or I don't know how you, Jaleel McLaughlin? I don't know how you pronounce it. But he has Samaje Perine behind him now. Samaje is bounced around. I know he had a stint in Cincinnati. He's a capable backup, but that's about what he is. I don't think that Javonte Williams has any risk of losing this top spot. His production in fantasy points was extremely low last year, considering the number of touch opportunities that he had. But to be honest with you, Denver was a shit show altogether. Maybe they found a little bit of help at the quarterback position that could help maybe back the defense off a little bit, opening up a little bit more space for Javonte Williams to work with. But the ADP range on him is between late 7, early 10th. I've got him going as a 6th to 7th round selection, only because I covet running back so highly. I think that he's worth that. Next one is Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is in a new city. He doesn't have to deal with the Dallas hype and the Dallas drama. Tennessee just got rid of Derrick Henry. They're used to having a premier back. Tyjae Spears is there. Tyjae Spears is a quality change of pace back, but Tony Pollard is an every down, 3 down type of back. I think that when you look at his rushing attempts per game and in the number of targets per game, he's got that perfect balance. He's in a good situation in Tennessee to take over that lead role. I don't expect it to be a split down the middle situation between him and Tyjae Spears. My concern really is with the offensive line. They do have a bottom 5 ranked offensive line. The next one on my list is Najee Harris. He's just been underwhelming and he seems slow. He's still the clear RB1 despite it seeming like Jaylen Warren is a better running back. If you talk to anybody who's watched the Steelers game, they will tell you that Jaylen Warren deserves a bigger role. I don't really know what it's going to look like this season, but if you really pull up their stats side by side, Najee Harris is still averaging more than 6 touches more per game and about 20 yards more per game than Jaylen Warren. So as exciting and as big of a surprise as Jaylen Warren was last season from a fantasy standpoint, I just don't think that Najee Harris has quite lost his starting spot. I like his ADP range, not so much the mid-6, but I could see taking him anywhere between rounds 7, 8, and 9. At my number 28th position, I've got him going slightly ahead of where he is projected. Devin Singletary, the clear RB1 for the New York Football Giants. Devin Singletary is a lot like DeAndre Swift. He's been a journeyman. He's been the ultimate RB2, change of pace type of guy. He's never really had that opportunity to be the premier every down running back. He's going to have that opportunity in New York. They do have a rookie that they drafted. I think it's Tyrone Tracy Jr. is his name. Solid rookie coming in, but I think that ultimately Devin Singletary is going to be worth more than his ADP range. He's currently projected between rounds 8 and 11. I could see him going as early as the 7th round if I really am hurting to find a guy at this stage of the draft who's going to see the bulk of the carry. So I expect an uptick in his fantasy production. I expect an uptick in his touches. I expect a little bit of an increase across the board for Devin Singletary. Good value here for his ADP. Brian Robinson Jr. is my 29th best running back. I expect a decreased role for him here in Washington. They added Austin Eckler from Los Angeles. I don't understand how things went so bad in Los Angeles, but regardless, Austin Eckler, seemingly their only really consistent and reliable fantasy option, ends up in Washington. I hate that for him because now I'm like forced to hate Austin Eckler's situation because Washington's such a shit show. But with that being said, I also don't think that Brian Robinson Jr. is worth much either, despite being listed as the RB1 in Washington. His ADP range is spot on. They've got him going between the late 8th round, early 10th round. I've got him 8th, 9th. If he's sitting there, you can feel okay about taking him. But for me, I just hate Washington players for fantasy value. Although I do wish Jaden Daniels is able to turn that franchise around a little bit. Rounding out the top 30 is Jaylen Warren. We just talked about him. I had him and Najee actually flip-flopped a couple days ago, but I looked at it again, and I feel like you can take Jaylen Warren at this spot. His ADP range is right here. They've got him going between the late 7th, early 9th round. I like that range for him. I think that he fits right there perfectly, although we are getting to the stage of the draft where you're kind of looking at guys, the only guys that are left are going to split carries. So for my money, I think that this is a good value pick for him here in the 8th, 9th round. So hopefully he is just your RB3. If you are leaning on him to be your RB2, you might be in trouble. So with that being said, we're going to pull up the last group of guys that we're going to talk about on today's episode of the Football Forecast. And these are the running backs ranked between the 31st and 40th spot on my list. So we're going to breeze through here. The number one guy is a rookie in Carolina. He's listed as the RB2 for them. ADP range is 8 to 10. I think that's perfect. He's the clear-cut top rookie in stats. He's the number one rookie running back that was drafted in the real draft. Chuba Hubbard is still my favorite name in football, but he had a surprisingly decent year last year considering all things that were going on in Carolina. Jonathan Brooks is listed as the RB2 in Carolina. I could see him taking over that spot, although he is still nursing an injury from last season in college. So, but as far as worth the risk here, I like this value for him in the 8th and 9th round on this top rookie running back, Jonathan Brooks. The next running back we just talked about, Austin Eckler, his situation definitely went down. His ADP range is between the 8th and 10th. I still think that that's okay. I think that Austin Eckler is good enough to possibly take over the lead spot in Washington. He's used to getting 18 touches a game. He's used to getting 70 yards per game, or 76 yards per game, both of which are better than Brian Robinson. I don't know if that says more about Brian Robinson or if that says more about the Washington franchise in general. I do expect a decrease in fantasy value from Austin Eckler, though. So 9th or 10th round, probably a good value in those rounds. Zach Moss, I love Zach Moss's potential here to be the #1 running back in Cincinnati to replace Joe Mixon, despite Chase Brown being listed as the RB1 in Cincinnati. So Zach Moss is the consensus 30. He's my 33rd. His ADP range is 7 to 10. That's pretty big range, which tells me a lot of people don't really know what to expect in Cincinnati. I think that that's fair, to be honest with you, which is why I have him on the back end of that 7 to 10 range. I've got him in my 9 to 10 range, but I still think that Zach Moss is a proven enough vet. He proved last year in Indianapolis earlier in the year that he could come in and fill in and give you quality minutes. He is a guy like a Swift, like a Singletary, who's been a journeyman. He's never really had that opportunity as a RB1. So I like this value here, though, in the 9th and 10th round. Gus Edwards is listed as the #1 running back in Los Angeles, being the Los Angeles Chargers. He is now playing for a run-heavy head coach in Harbaugh. I think that he's worth this ADP range. They've got him going late 9th to early 12th round. I do like that spot for Gus Edwards. So don't really expect too much from a fantasy standpoint, really, but when you're getting to the 30th and 40th ranked running backs, what can you really expect? If you're looking for an RB3, RB4 guy late in your draft or mid to late in your draft, Gus Edwards is not a bad option, considering he's one of the few guys left that's listed as an RB1. The next guy's in that same exact boat, same ADP range, mid-9th to early or to the late 11th round. I've got him 9th to 10th. I think that he's perfectly suited in this range, but again, don't know what to do with him. Zeke is back in Dallas. He's another one that feels older than he is. He looks slower than he used to be, despite only being 29 years old. The only good thing that Zeke has going for him is that he's back in a locker room where he's comfortable with guys in a system that he's comfortable with. Maybe just based on that alone, you'll see a little bit of an uptick. He didn't really look like he gave a shit in New England, to be honest with you. Worth a 9th, 10th round draft pick. And I really don't expect too much out of Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn either. So don't love Zeke, but this is kind of where he needs to be. Another guy that plummeted on my list due to obvious reasons is Nick Chubb. He is the consensus 29th overall running back. He's my 36th. He's literally never on the football field. He's always going to be listed as the RB1 in Cleveland as long as he's on their roster because he's a top 5 talent. He's just never on the football field. His ADP range is between the 7th and 10th round. I don't even know if I like him there. I've got him 10th and 11th. So definitely on the back end of that range, pushing into the 11th round for me. I have a lot of trouble drafting a guy who's literally never on the football field. My 37th ranked running back is Jerome Ford, which is a fitting player to have immediately behind Nick Chubb because it is not if, it's when Jerome Ford has to come into the game because Nick Chubb gets hurt. He's proven that he can do it. He can run the job. His ADP is set correctly. They've got him listed between the 10th and 12th rounds. I've got him 10th and 11th. And the only reason why I pushed him to 11 from 12 is because I know that it's coming. If you draft Nick Chubb and it comes right back to you, just go ahead and lock up his backup because he's the perfect handcuff. You know Nick Chubb is going to miss time, and Jerome Ford was one of the biggest surprises last year in fantasy football. So I love Jerome Ford. I wish that I could have him ranked higher than I do Nick Chubb, but we know who they're going to feed if he's there. Chuba Hubbard is my 38th ranked running back, despite being in an obvious situation with this new rookie. Chuba Hubbard had a very surprising year last year. No, his fantasy points per game really wasn't that high, but they used him a lot. I mean, he almost had 17 touches per game, almost 70 yards per game. I do have a slight uptick in his value. consensus has him going between mid 11th round to late 14th. I like him in the 10-11 range. So I've got a slight uptick there for Chuba Hubbard. He's already proven himself within that locker room, and I don't really put too much stock in the rookie till we see it. So, especially with the rookie nursing an injury. Second to last guy on the list is Chase Brown in Cincinnati. He had a few opportunities last year in Cincinnati. He did not do much with them. So I've been really shocked at just how high he has been being drafted. He is the 39th consensus ranked running back as well. So actually, we agree on that. There's not too many guys that I have ranked in the exact same spot. But I do have him on the back end of that ADP round range. So he's going between the 9th and 12th. I don't think I'm touching him 9th or 10th. So I've got him valued in the 11th and 12th round. And finally, rounding off the last of the top 40 running backs for me is Zach Charbonnet. And the only reason that he's ranked ahead of Tyler Algier and Tyjae Spears, who are next in line, you don't have it on your screen, but the next two running backs are Tyler Algier and Tyjae Spears. These guys are the three that are going to be obvious RB2s for their teams, but Zach is in the best situation in Seattle because it's the same situation. He was used consistently in every single game, averaged about 7 rushing attempts and about 3 targets, 2.5, 3 targets per game. And if you look at his entire game log, those numbers were more consistent than Tyler Algier in Atlanta and Tyjae Spears in Tennessee, where you're going to see a little bit more ups and downs for them. So if you're just looking at his fantasy points per game, he's lower than those. But Tyler Algier in a new offense where they're expected to give the ball more to Bijan and Kirk, don't think that Tyler's going to have quite as good of a role as a backup running back that he did last season. Same with Tyjae Spears. I feel like Tyjae had his opportunity last year, did not do much with it. Tyjae's going to be heavily involved in the passing game, but from a running game standpoint, Tyjae Spears is basically absent completely. The reason that I have Zach Charbonnet or Charbonnet, whatever, however you pronounce his name, in Seattle, ranked ahead of those guys, is because of his consistent role. So you can bank on taking him. Again, he's ranked 40th out of all the running backs. So if he is your RB3, you are in trouble. Okay? He is nothing more than a handcuff or an RB4 option for you late in the draft. So anyways, I did do research on 70 guys, but really, once you get to this point of the draft, it's a crapshoot of who's going to be available anyways. Most of the people that you're going to be drafting with don't have the knowledge or the depth of knowledge within every single franchise and just how their rosters are constructed to really draft guys this late according to their value. It kind of becomes a shit show once you get past once you really get outside of the top 40 here. You start seeing a lot of risk taken, a lot of handcuffing. This is where these rounds 11 to 15 or 16, however many rounds are in your draft, these are where you see your backup tight ends, your backup quarterbacks, your 5th and 6th receivers, your defenses, your kickers. I mean, honestly, anybody after this is just going to be a personal preference. I'm going to mention a couple names, though, that I'm excited about as far as rookies who are in good positions. So, Bucky Irving in Tampa Bay, they pretty much only used Rachaad White last season. Bucky Irving comes right in as a rookie, listed as the RB2. Bucky Irving was heavily involved in the passing game in college. He is the perfect change-up pace back. I think you're going to see a little bit of thunder and lightning type of usage with these running backs in Tampa Bay. Look for Bucky Irving to be a late pick in your draft. The other two that I'm going to list are in good situations here. Ray Davis out of Kentucky. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a homer, but to be honest, if you look at it, Ray Davis's stats from a production standpoint in college were the second best of all the rookies in this draft, despite him being like the 7th or 8th running back taken in the draft. He's also in one of the best situations in Buffalo where he comes in as the no argument running back number 2 on the roster. They are going to use James Cook in an increased role, in my opinion. What could come with that could be injury, could be a few more plays that he's forced to come off the field for a few plays. I like the position that Ray Davis is in, especially considering he is a powerful back. He can do the dirty stuff, and they can let James Cook cook. Braylon Allen is the last rookie that I'm looking at that might be worth consideration. Braylon Allen is in a good situation in New York where they have a quarterback who can spread the ball all over the football field. Breece Hall is not going to have to carry as much of a load as he did last season. I think that if they're smart, they're not going to beat the second year, or is it third year? But either way, he's young into his career. If they're smart, they're not going to be beating Breece Hall up more than they should. Braylon Allen is a fully capable rookie running back to come in and give production to this offense. So there it is. There's my top 40. There's a couple of 3 rookies to look at in your late round draft, as your late round draft picks, your Mr. Irrelevance. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. Again, just like I said in the quarterback video, have a plan, okay? Have a plan for your draft. Know where these guys are actually realistically going to be available, and think to yourself how you can construct your roster with at least two guys that are without question the number 1 guys on their team. I do not want my RB1 or my RB2 splitting carries. My RB3 can be a guy that splits carries, but I want a high-end guy. I want a guy who has an established role. I want a guy who has proven that he's going to get looks. He's going to get those touch opportunities. That's a huge, huge stat for me, are those touch opportunities, okay? So you're looking at guys like for your RB3 spot, I'm looking at, just to throw a couple names out here, that average 16 or more touches, or touch opportunities, rather. I'm looking at guys like Austin Eckler. I'm looking at guys like Zach Moss. I'm looking at guys like Jerome Ford, Chuba Hubbard. Okay, these are guys who can come in as your RB3 and fill your bye weeks, and serve as quality handcuffs to the starters on those football teams. So there it is. My next show will be done probably early next week. I'm going to spend a few days focusing on the wide receivers and building a similar list where I'm probably going to research 70% 40 of those receivers for you all, and in the same layout, the same everything. So look forward to that. Thanks to anybody who's watching. I hope that you learned something. Best of luck in your draft if you're drafting this weekend.
How you play the game with the people that writing the rules? Ain't the fame that I'm after when paying the dues. I've been through the pain that's reflected in the attitude. Might be winning now, but the thing is that I had to lose. So go and tell me what you really want to do. And lonely at the top, cause there ain't a lot of room. Ain't no other option, it's all I ever knew. So I'ma get it poppin', you know how I'ma do. Up and down through the blood and the sweat. Guarantee you can know I'm a threat. Up and down